In this tutorial, I'm going to be talking about how to use selective sync when saving items to your Divi library. Now, you'll notice whenever you add a new module to your library, there's going to be an option called selective sync where you can choose certain settings to be saved for that particular library item. For example, if I wanted to save this blurb to the library, and I opened up the blurb settings and clicked Save and Add to Library, you're going to see selective sync here. And there's going to be three options to include general settings, advanced design settings, and custom CSS settings. Now, you'll notice that these three settings correlate to the three tabs that you find in all of your module modal setting pop-ups. So if I go back to my blurb settings, you'll see these same three tabs here. And that's what those selective sync options are referring to: the general settings, the advanced design settings, and the custom CSS settings, which each has a different purpose. General settings typically have the content of the module. For example, when I'm editing this blurb, if I want to modify the actual text that appears in the title, if I want to change the URL that the title goes to when clicked, if I want to adjust the icon, and so on, that's all in the general settings tab. And if you want to get a little bit more specific with your design customization, you can move over to the advanced design settings and do things like adjust the header font, adjust the font style and size, letter spacing, line height. There's really nothing you can't do inside the advanced design settings. So there's lots of options here. And then finally we have the custom CSS tab, which can be used for the same thing, the same purpose as the advanced design settings, but instead of using our custom advanced design setting controls, if you're a web designer, web developer, and you prefer just to get your hands dirty with CSS instead, well, what we've done in the custom CSS tab is laid out all of the structural elements of the blurb module in this case, and you can just type in your custom CSS here. And yeah, that's the three settings tabs that you'll find in every single module that you edit with Divi. And when you save an item to the library, you can choose which tabs you're actually saving for that library item. So, for example, let's take a look at one of these blurb modules on this page. So I'm going to head over to the page and take a look at what I built here. So I have a row here, and it has 3 columns and 3 blurbs. Now, let's say for this particular homepage layout, I want to do something a little bit more custom with these blurbs. I want to dig into those advanced design settings and really customize the appearance here. So what I'm going to do is load up the blurb and start customizing these settings in these 3 tabs here. And the reason I'm doing this is so once I have customized all these 3 tabs, I'm going to show you how syncing only certain tabs can be useful when saving items to the library. So I'm going to go over to the advanced design settings here. I'm going to use a custom icon size and make the icon a little bigger. I'm going to make the header bold. I'm going to make the header a little bit larger. I'm going to choose a custom text color for the header. I'm going to bump up the letter spacing a little bit. And then I'm going to choose a color for the body font. I'm going to give it a background color, so I'm going to give it a purple background color. And since I'm assigning a background color to this blurb, I'm also going to give it some padding so that there's some space between the text and the edge of the module. I'm just going to give it some custom padding here on the top, bottom, right, and left. And then I'm going to go back to the general settings. I'm going to put the icon on top. And I'm going to center the text, and I'm going to save. So let's look at what I've created here as I have dug into the advanced settings a little bit. So I'm going to refresh this page and take a look at our customized blurb. So you can see here, this blurb is looking a lot different. I've turned it into a box, a purple box. I've centered all the items inside. I've made the header text a little bit bigger, increased the line spacing. And so I'm really starting to give this blurb a completely different and unique look from the rest of the blurbs on the page. And I'm also going to assign an icon color here, which I forgot to do. And I'm going to delete these other blurbs and duplicate this one across here. And refresh the page and try to show you the look I'm trying to achieve here. So now I have 3 blurbs. I've turned them into these boxed blurbs. Changed the icon and the text color to white. And like I said, I've really spent a lot of time customizing these advanced design settings. Now, let's say I would like to save this item to the library and use it in the future. Well, I can do that by clicking Save and Add to Library from within the Settings modal pop-up. And when I do this, I can choose to only sync, in this case, the advanced design settings, since really that's where I spent all my time customizing. And every time I add a new blurb, it's unlikely that I'd want to use the same exact title text and body text and icon font. In fact, I'm most definitely going to change those things. So why not just sync the advanced design settings, which is the only thing I really want to have when I load this library item onto a new page. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call it block blurb. I'm going to save it to my library. And now if I head over to my library and look for that new block blurb module item, it's right here. Now if I were to edit this, you're going to see that only the advanced design settings appear when I try to edit the module. And so, yep, that's the only thing that's actually being saved for this particular library item. And now if I load this new library item onto a page, all those advanced design settings are going to be populated, but all the general settings are going to remain blank, just like I was adding a new module. So I won't have to bother, deleting the old stuff that I really don't need for my new page. So I'm going to add a new page to show you how to add that new library item. Click Add New. I'm going to use the Divi Builder. I'm going to load a layout. And then I'm going to get rid of these blurbs and add my new blurbs that I just saved. So I'm going to insert from library. So click Insert Module and choose Add from Library. And then locate that block blurb that I just created and load that in. And you'll see that the advanced design settings has all been saved, and my general settings they're still a clean slate, so it's a little bit easier to start from. Now let's take that a step further and talk about global modules. And this is where selective sync really becomes even more useful when you combine selective sync with global modules. So let's say I have a full width slider here, and on all my pages I have this slider at the top of my page. And I've spent a lot of time customizing the advanced design settings for that slider. Let's say I have changed the header font, I've changed the header text size, the font styling and all that. Maybe I've customized the button too to make it stand out a little more. And I've decided that every time I add a new slider to my page, I want to use those same styles, and I don't want to have to modify them every time I add a new slider. And if at any point I decide to change one of those styles, I don't want to have to go back to every single slider on every page of my site and change all those settings. That's a big waste of time. So what we can do is save that slider as a global module and only selectively sync the advanced design settings. And so what does that mean? You now have multiple sliders across all of your pages with different slide content, different slides, but you've synced the advanced design settings across that series of global modules. And so anytime you edit that global module and edit the global advanced design settings tab, every single global module is going to be updated with those new styles, but you're able to use unique content on every single page. So that's incredibly powerful, incredibly useful, especially when you're trying to create a unique look for your entire site and want to be able to edit that look with just a few clicks. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to edit this full width slider. And like I said, I want to change some things about this slider. I want to give the header a bigger font size. Actually, yes, I'm going to give the header a larger font size. Let's bump it up a lot. I'm going to make it bold. I'm going to give it a new font as well. So let's find an interesting font. I am going to reduce the padding. So I kind of want to make my sliders a little bit shorter, since I'm going to be using them on all my pages. So I'm just going to reduce that padding a bit and change this to 200. And let's see what else I want to do. I can also customize the buttons. So let's enable custom button styles for this slider. I'm going to bump up the text size a bit. I'm going to change the color to white for the text color. I'm going to give it a green background color. I'm going to change the border width to 0. I'm going to bump up the border radius. What this will do is make the button a circle instead of a rounded rectangle. I'm going to increase the letter spacing a little bit. I'm going to change the icon color to white as well. Okay, so that's just about do it. I've customized this slider quite a bit. I've created a new look for my slider, and that matches my vision for the website. And like I said, I'm creating this slider because I want to use it on several pages. So a lot of my pages will have a slider on the top, and I want to create a unique style for those sliders. Okay, the page is loaded up. And as you can see, here's the slider that I customized. I created a different looking header, added a different font, made the text a little bit smaller, made the button bigger, made it green. And so I'm happy with this look. This is the look I'd like to use on all my pages. But like I said, I only really want to sync those custom styles. So what I'm going to do is when I save this full width slider to the library, I'm going to selectively sync only the advanced design settings. I'm going to make it global. I'm going to call it global slider, and I'm going to save it to the library. As you can see, this will turn green to signify that it is a global module. And if you open this up, you're going to see that only the advanced design settings tab is green. That's our way of telling you that that is the only tab that's being synced between these, this series of global modules. So I can edit the general settings, I can edit the custom CSS, and it won't affect the rest of the modules, the rest of the global modules, the rest of the instances of this particular global module. And as you can see, all those settings that I customized here are saved in the Advanced Design Settings tab. And so just as an experiment to show you how this works, I'm going to duplicate the slider. And so now I have two instances of the same exact global module. But since I've only synced the advanced design settings, those are the only things that are being shared between these two modules. So if I were to open up this slider and change the setting to hide arrows instead of show arrows, for example, and save and exit, if I open up this slider, that setting hasn't been changed. That's because this general settings tab is not being synced between these global modules. Only the advanced settings are. If I go over to the advanced settings, on the other hand, and I change this to 400 instead of 200 and save, well, now when I open up this global module and head over to those advanced design settings, you can see that's been updated. So this is an incredibly powerful concept. You have two global modules sharing the same advanced styles, but having unique general settings, unique content. And so now I can add this same global module to different pages. And then once I have, let's say, a series of 20 pages with all these unique sliders at the top, if I ever want to change the styles shared by all those sliders, I just have to go into the advanced settings of one of those global modules, make a change, and then instantly all my pages get updated. It saves you a ton of time. It's really cool. So that's a basic overview of using selective sync when saving items to your Divi library. And like I said, this application can be used for a lot of different reasons, not just sliders. You could have headers that are duplicated across your site. For example, you might have a footer, with a call to action module that is synced across your entire site. And you might want to have, these modules share their design settings. You might want to have certain modules share just CSS settings. For example, perhaps you've created a series of blurb modules across your site, all with different content, different advanced design settings, but you've applied a custom CSS animation using the CSS tab, and you want to be able to change this animation across your entire site with one click. Well, that's a perfect example of why you might use selective sync in combination with global modules.